I appear to be experiencing technical difficulties. My internet was just gone. And now, with luck, I'm streaming again, but I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a separate video if it works. So I'm going to pop in to YouTube and see what, yeah, look, it says I'm live. I'm going to try this and go to the video with a different URL. All right, well, I guess this is my second half of my live stream for April 21st. Looks like I've regained a listener. My Wi-Fi just stopped. I don't know why, but it's back. It appears to be working. I appear to be live again. I appear to have a listener and everything, so, or a watcher. So let's continue. Where I left off, I was talking about Ohio and how, for reasons unknown to me, Ohio is radically worse than everyone else. And I was going to zoom in on Ohio and see whether they really had recovered and lost it. I was predicting, actually, guessing that we were just going to find that they were slow. But no, this really is a turnaround from a recovery to an anti-recovery. Ohio was happily trending downward until somewhere around April 6th, and even really, I'd say even until April 14th. But they have experienced an uptick, a sustained uptick in their cases. Pretty dramatic. 30% new cases a day for about 5 days in a row. 30% increase in new cases each day. So that's wild. I don't know why that's happening, but Ohio certainly is the outstanding loser right now. Nobody else is even close. Louisiana, no, that's not Louisiana. Looking at the states that are doing worst, North Carolina, Arizona, Virginia, Tennessee. Those are the ones that are trending, that are have slight growth and are trending, at least not downward or slightly upward. I guess Tennessee or Virginia is maybe trending slightly downward. And then there's Massachusetts and Illinois. Those have slightly positive growth, but they're trending downward. It's looking like Illinois is going to cross that zero line in a day or so. So Illinois is on its way to recovery. Of the states that are trending downward, we certainly have Washington, as always, in the lead. Michigan also, surprisingly. Michigan is doing well. New York, I mean, it's not surprising because we keep seeing this, but it's surprising because a couple of weeks ago, everyone thought Michigan was going to be a new epicenter. But we repeatedly see that the states that everyone's most worried about, or even the countries that everyone's most worried about, don't turn into new epicenters. Michigan, Louisiana, India, dare I say. It's a little early to say, but India, Brazil, everyone, really. There just aren't any new epicenters. There are very few of them. Ohio, sure, right now is looking problematic, but everything is mostly getting better. There, other than that first burst of explosive growth in a lot of places, now since well on its way to recovery, we are not seeing a lot of, what I'd say, second wave major epidemics. Just today, CDC or someone said, well, the second epidemic might be a lot worse, or the second wave might be a lot worse than the first. Maybe, but if it's happening right now, we're not really seeing it. By country, similarly, we're seeing a few things, but sure, Peru could take off, or Japan or Ecuador, but we're just not seeing major, large countries catching this thing and running away exponentially with it. The news is good. The news continues to be good. So Michigan, great. Indiana, New York continues in its recovery, which is very substantial now. 11% fewer cases each day on average. Pennsylvania, Alabama, California even. California, let's look at California. Had a really good day, and so now it's looking even more like it's bending in the right direction. According to this, California probably turned the corner on April 9th. That was some time ago. And though they've had a few bad days, they've had a lot more good days, and so the trend is downward for California. The news is good. New York, in population tested, New York no longer the leader, having been soundly passed by Rhode Island. As we've seen for some days, Rhode Island clearly the winner in new daily tests. We'd see this here as well. Rhode Island, obviously the winner in new daily tests. Everyone's doing okay. The worst is Virginia, I think, with 66% of their population tested. But Rhode Island has crossed 3.5% of their population. A lot of states need to do better in testing, I would say. A lot of states are saying we can't open until we get better testing. There's a whole lot of bickering, political bickering about whose problem that is, but the bottom line is everybody wants more testing, and nobody has it right now. Well, not nobody. Rhode Island has it right now, I'd say. But a lot of states don't, and they're going to be working very hard, hopefully with a lot of assistance from the federal government, to make that happen. But right now, the ones that are really doing well in testing are New York, Rhode Island, Louisiana, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Washington. There was a time that Washington seemed to have turned off its testing, but that time is long behind us. Washington, for all of that weird little line there, has now continued its trend of doing very respectable testing, 1.9% of the population. So they apparently have the capacity to continue, and they're going to, and so Washington is really out of the woods, it looks like. Let's move on to the counties. Looking at the counties, Los Angeles has this real bump here. We'll see whether this is real, but it's extraordinarily more cases than in previous days. Maybe it's, I haven't heard about it, about a new way of reporting how many people are positive, but that could be, we see that sometimes. This is the total cases graph, though. I don't care so much about that one as much as the daily cases, but look at that. Way up there in the stratosphere, 1,500 new cases reported in Los Angeles today. I did look at a different data source that didn't show this. It was behind a day, so maybe this is just total data garbage. I don't have this confirmed in other places, but my guess is this is real. This actually is going to persist as a data point as we go forward in Los Angeles. After having a very nice flat period, has suddenly had a terrible day, and hopefully it's just one day. Riverside also, no one else touches those two in daily new cases. No one comes close to Los Angeles and Riverside. Some other ones, San Bernardino. Let's just go onto the rope chart there. This is per capita. Per capita, Riverside is even worse. Los Angeles still per capita has the largest spike. Some counties, a number of counties that have clearly turned the corner. I'll just try to pick out a few of those. Sacramento. You really know they've turned the corner. Kern, when it shows up in this chart as a trend line. San Mateo, probably San Francisco, and just a whole bunch of other ones that are headed downwards. Sonoma, just a lot of good news on the county side. The rope chart shows it more clearly. There's this real dichotomy here. There's a split between the ones that have positive growth and are getting worse, and the ones that have negative growth and are getting better. We saw this yesterday. It's interesting. It's quite possible, and we've seen it in many of these other rope charts, including today, to have things that have positive growth, but they're heading for better. They're doing better, like Russia, or have negative growth, but are losing their direction and are heading back upwards. We just don't see any of those of either, with this single exception of Fresno, which is actually negative and getting better. So Fresno hopefully is going to turn this around. But all these counties here are doing poorly, have a positive growth, more and more new cases each day, and they're all trending upwards. Marin, San Mateo, certainly San Mateo has the worst slope of all of these. It's really trending upwards. Marin, pretty bad too. So those two definitely the worst news of the day, Marin and San Mateo. San Bernardino, though, and Stanislaus, which I think has sometimes been doing better, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, Orange, all of those show this very slightly upward trend. They have a positive growth. You can't really believe much for the people way down at the bottom, like Stanislaus and Santa Cruz. One day of a few extra cases can turn their curve, but other ones are like San Francisco. Definitely, this is a real trend. San Francisco has seen some new days that are up. And so San Francisco, not looking great. At least they're not accelerating off into more and more and more cases, but they do have more and more cases. They have a growth of new cases, 10% more new cases every day. That's not good, especially for a big place like San Francisco. It's already in the top 6. Santa Cruz is not a big deal. It's small enough, but Orange County also. Orange has moved into 5th place. I do not think they were here before in the top 5. 6% growth, slightly accelerating, not looking great for Orange County. And then there's here Los Angeles. Really? That's probably not Los Angeles. I don't believe that's Los Angeles. It is Los Angeles. Los Angeles is showing 0 growth, but it's not getting better. Can we see that here? Well, they did have this one terrible day, so maybe that's part of what's pulled them off. But it would seem from this graph, I mean, yeah, they do have 0 growth, but it seems like they're trending towards a little better. But yeah, Los Angeles right now, we can't say anything about it. It's kind of all over the map. Had this one terrible day, sometimes up, sometimes down. There was a time just a week ago when Los Angeles's trend was very good. I think the trend was definitely below 0, ending about here. Since then, they seem to have lost their grip. So Los Angeles, the news is not good. Los Angeles is back to barely stable from looking like they were doing okay. They aren't getting new cases each day, though. That's certainly this is the average of 3 days too. So 3 days the average of 3 days has a 63% growth rate. That's a crazy number. I don't know if I quite believe it, but even if you don't, the general trend of having all these days up above 0, Los Angeles, if you don't believe this point, and it's too soon to quite take it at face value, Los Angeles is probably trending in the right direction, but if you do believe that point, it's right at break even. And since it's by far the most cases, that's trouble to see Los Angeles heading back upwards. The other ones that are doing well are Sonoma, Sacramento, Tulare, Placer, Santa Clara, Solano, Imperial, Contra Costa, and just barely San Luis Obispo. The testing is, I don't know quite what's going on with Kern here, but the testing is mostly looking okay. Some counties we don't have data for, but the ones we do, San Luis Obispo is not testing enough, frankly, at 0.3%. But everyone else is at 0.5% or higher of total tested, total population tested. And the very best, San Francisco, is at 1.3% of population. That's quite a good number, though nothing like the overall, all of New York overall is testing. Let's go back and just take a brief look at that. Let's just go to Rhode Island. It's even better. Rhode Island as a whole, no, we will go to New York because it's big. New York as a whole has tested 3.1% of the population. No, in order for that to happen, there are some counties in New York that are testing more than 3.1% of the population, maybe a lot more. I don't have county data visualized here, but there must be some counties testing above that and some below, so the average ends up at 3.1 or 3.2% of the population. San Francisco, the very best county that we have data for here, Riverside is pretty good too, is testing 1.3% of the population. It's less than half of what the averages is doing in New York. And so we keep seeing this. I don't know if I've pointed it out, but I should because I always do. California, on average, testing 0.7% of the population, way behind the group here. I don't know quite where they are, but it might be here. No, that's Indiana. Here. We'll blink it. California is way behind the group. Look at that. California is just almost dead last in its testing. And some counties are doing better than the whole. I was just in New York, but yeah, California continues to do very poorly in its testing. In spite of this, I would say the rope chart trend, it's not bad. It's probably a little down, but it's really split. So California as a whole needs more testing. Isn't doing it. Let's look at. Oh, we can't. Yes, we can. Here's where we can see if California is doing better at testing. In the daily, it's daily testing, and it is. Its daily testing is accelerating. At least we're seeing more new tests each day. 7 tenths per million. New tested 700ths. Yeah, 700ths of a percent per million. So at least it's picking up its testing, but it's really kind of sluggish in its pickup. Let's just compare again to Rhode Island. Why would Rhode Island be having such a difference in testing from California? Why does Rhode Island, I ask you, gentle reader, why does Rhode Island have such spectacular testing? Do they have a major lab there that was all set up to do it? Did they do some sort of a statewide initiative really early on? Do they have a company that makes testing and is prioritizing Rhode Island residents? I tried to find this out and didn't find anything. I don't understand, but Rhode Island's numbers are great. They've done something right. They've done something right there. California hasn't. So I end again with a rant about how terrible California's testing is. In spite of that, the news is good overall. California's mixed. The news is mixed, but maybe slightly good. The news for the states as a whole, the rope chart of the states is certainly good. There are some bad states, but mostly the states are doing well. And the news for the world, let's look at cases, not deaths, because it looks even better when you look at cases. The news for the world as a whole is also good. It's better for the world. As you get to bigger aggregations of people, the news gets better. The world is looking really good right now. The California is looking pretty good right now, and many of the states, the United States is looking pretty good. Actually, maybe that's as good as the world, really, when you look at it. The rope chart for the world, the rope chart for the United States, looking kind of the same. No thanks to California, though. California isn't at least pulling Ohio on us, but it's not looking great. So that's the news. Mixed, but better, really, than it was even a week ago, I think. A week ago was when the news started to seem worse again, and now it's starting to seem better. I need a graph of showing that. That's probably... Anyway, a graph of how many times I say good and that's the news, coronavirus news. My name's Greg Farrar. Thanks for listening. I'll be back. I might start doing this every other day. I've skipped some days anyway. We'll see. If I have time, I'll do it tomorrow. If it fits easily, especially if there's something significantly different in the news tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. If not, I'll surely do it the next day. Actually, I probably will do it tomorrow because I'm going to be traveling the next day, and that makes it hard to do it on Thursdays. Thanks for listening.